excited to offer you.
My tablet, alarm, oh, can't forget Bubbles. Hey, no way you're keeping that stinky fish in my room. Chris. My room, my rules. Rachel. She lives with her mom and dad and her little brother in their happy little home in upstate New York. But recently, everything about Rachel's life has turned upside down. And it all started with Grandma Lucille falling sick and moving in with them. More specifically, moving into Rachel's room upstairs. And Rachel has no choice but to share her brother's room downstairs, where she was getting a little taste of her own medicine from Chris. At first, having Grandma Lucille move in didn't seem like a bad thing. Rachel loved her. Every time she used to go over to Grandma Lucille's place, she had so much fun. But now that Grandma Lucille was here, Rachel can't take it. It's almost as if Grandma Lucille is the boss of the house now. And within a blink, Rachel has lost all her privacy. But even more irritating than having Grandma Lucille poke her nose and everything was Grandma Lucille's superstitions. What are you doing? Why are you leaving the bones? The bones? Eat them, unless you want bad luck. Rachel, where are you going like that? Rachel, to the mall with my friends. Wear this, unless you want bad luck. A turtleneck in the middle of summer? But perhaps the most unreasonable of all of Grandma Lucille's superstitions was her despise for Mrs. Kittler, their neighbor. Evil. She's pure evil. Evil? What did she do? Stay away from her, unless you want bad luck. All right, Grandma. Mrs. Kittler and Rachel had been neighbors for as long as she could remember. Mrs. Kittler had literally seen Rachel grow up, and she was one of the nicest ladies. They crossed paths at the park. Now and then, Mrs. Kittler came over to give her baked pastries. But now, all of a sudden, Mrs. Kittler has turned into an evil witch. Hello, Mrs. Kittler. How are you? I'm well, dear. I know your birthday is coming up, so I thought I'd bake you a cake. Wow, it looks beautiful. Thanks so much, Mrs. Kittler. What evil is she up to? Rachel, what is that? Grandma! It was Mrs. Kittler. She made a cake for my birthday. Why did you take that? Throw it away. Rachel was surprised seeing Grandma Lucille take the cake out of her hand and throw it right in the trash. In the trash. No, Grandma, come on. It was just a chocolate cake. You don't take food from the devil. Oh, Grandma. Rachel was a little fed up. Grandma is too much. She didn't want to be a rebel, but Grandma Lucille was pushing the limits here. But little did Rachel know, that would be the last of her troubles with Grandma Lucille. Just a day after Rachel's 16th birthday, Grandma Lucille passed away. Grandma Lucille used to bother her so much, but now that she's gone, Rachel actually misses her. She remembered all the stories Grandma Lucille used to share with her, how much she used to care for her, but they were all memories now. And the next day, Rachel was back to her room. But sitting on her bed, it felt so different, almost as if she wasn't returning to her room. She was returning to her grandma's room. That night, Rachel staring at her grandma's glasses on her nightstand. When she noticed Mrs. Kittler's room across the yard. What is she doing? Every night, exactly after 11:03, Rachel would see Mrs. Kittler come out to her backyard and do something on the ground. What are those things in her hand? Is this what Grandma was talking about? Rachel froze seeing Mrs. Kittler look directly towards her window, almost as if she were staring right at her. Can she see me? But the lights are off. How can she see me? Every time Rachel would try to get a better look at what Mrs. Kittler was doing, Mrs. Kittler would look towards her window and leave. Crazy woman. It was one of these nights. Rachel had fallen asleep a little early, only to wake up to something horrifying. Through the corner of her eye, she saw something crawling around her bed. At first, Rachel thought it was her imagination in the dark, but then she felt something by her feet, climbing onto her bed. She closed her eyes and pulled her blankets as her heart raced, but she couldn't keep it together. A heavy gust of wind blew through the window, slamming it shut, and Rachel screamed out, "Mom!" "Rachel, what happened?" "Mom, someone came into my room." "What?" Rachel's mom quickly ran to the window and checked outside. But there was no one. The night was silent. The room was empty. But Rachel looked horrified. "Rachel, you must have seen a nightmare." "No, Mom. I felt it get on my bed." "It?" "I don't know what it was." "Rachel, go back to sleep. There's nothing in your room." Rachel's mom wouldn't believe anything she said. In fact, Rachel herself didn't know what just happened, but she was terrified. The next morning, Rachel woke up with a high fever. "So strange. I saw her gardening just the other day, and now she's no more." "Who?" "Mrs. Kittler. She passed away this morning. The ambulances were all here." "What? Mrs. Kittler has passed away?" Seeing Rachel's condition, her mother checked her forehead. "Rachel, you're burning up. Go back to bed. I'll get you some warm tea." Rachel felt horrible, and the fear only made things worse. Something just didn't feel right about what was going on. First her grandma, now Mrs. Kittler, and her room. There was something about her room. Rachel couldn't sleep. She was scared to go to the bathroom. She didn't feel secure without checking her back every so often. "Chris, can I sleep with you?" "Why? What's wrong with your room?" "I don't know. I just get this strange feeling." "You scaredy cat." "Rachel, why are you here?" "Mom, I can't sleep in my room. I'm telling you, there's something there." "Rachel, there was no one. Maybe you're just missing your grandma." "No, Mom, believe me. It's not possible. I checked all the security cameras. Nobody was there that night." "Mom, don't you think it's weird how Mrs. Kittler suddenly passed away? Grandma was telling me about her, and the past few nights before she passed away, I saw her doing something in her yard." "Maybe she was throwing out the trash." "Rachel, you're overthinking. The grandma stories are getting to you." When Rachel hadn't gone to school in a couple days, Kayla came over to meet her. "Rachel, what's up with you? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I don't know what I've been seeing." Rachel told Kayla everything, and Kayla was more than intrigued. Grandma was right. Maybe there is some evil about Mrs. Kittler. I still don't get what she was up to. You know, the only way we can find out is if we go to her place. her place? So that night, Rachel and Kayla sneaked out and went to Mrs. Kittler's house. With a little tinkering, they got in through one of the windows. But when they stepped into Mrs. Kittler's house, everything seemed nothing out of the ordinary. Rachel and Kayla went to Mrs. Kittler's bedroom. But it was completely empty. Rachel stepped by her window, looking at her window. It was true. She wasn't able to see anything. Rachel, get a look at this. Rachel went over to Kayla, staring into Mrs. Kittler's closet. Inside was a whole collection of Rachel's personal items, from her childhood to her teens. Why does she have a whole timeline of your life? Rachel picked up a small wooden toy from the shelf. This is my toy. How did she get it? Isn't this your shirt? Didn't you lose this? She stole them? She stole a whole lot more. Rachel and Kayla looked at a whole box of Rachel's things over the years. Why was she collecting your things? Maybe she was a witch or something. Come on, let's get out of here. It's getting creepy. That night, Rachel decided to let the past be the past. Both her grandma and Mrs. Kittler were no more, and nothing could change that. I miss you, Grandma. That night, Rachel slept in her room again, and this time, nothing happened. But Rachel still wonders what really happened to her grandma, Mrs. Kittler. What happened that night in her room? Someone had come into her room that night. Grandma Lucille didn't pass away just like that. She too experienced something similar. Something similar. Grandma Lucille passed away from a heart attack. But what would have happened to Rachel would have been far worse. If not for Grandma Lucille.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.